have a question for you guys. Do you guys think that the FGC and its players actually suck at teaching new players how to actually play the games? Or how to actually get into them? Why I'm proposing this question, and why I'm even prompted to even make this video in the first place, was I was scrolling through Twitter, and I saw a quote retweet from a good buddy of mine, Leapfrog Pacho. You know, we love Potemkin. Yeah, let me just read this off for you guys. Like I said, I just saw this and just thought this was just buck wild. You know, and you know, the goal of this video isn't to really call out this person in particular or this tweet. It just got me thinking, right? So the tweet goes like this: man, the FGC kind of sucks at teaching new players how to get into their games, to be honest. You ask for help and all you get is, I don't know, just learn your character, lol. Like, thanks, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. That doesn't do anything to actually teach me the game, bro. So in reading this, I kind of thought to myself, and you know, big up to my boy Leapfrog for quote retweeting this, right? But what really gets me about this kind of statement in particular is that I think that a person first and foremost needs to check their expectations when it comes to things like this, right? It's not really up to said players to really teach you how to do anything because they're not getting paid to do it. You know, there's a myriad of things, right? And I do think it's a little unfair at the same time to kind of call out the whole FGC. And again, once again, this isn't to like blow up this person in particular, right? But I do find it interesting because that's something that's kind of been echoed around the FGC for a good while now. But I don't think that necessarily holds true. I think instead, what's the more obvious thing is that like not every player is good at teaching. Not every good player is good at explaining things. There's a lot of players that just know how to play the game and don't know how to do anything else but that, right? And like something that seems, you know, very obvious to them isn't obvious to the person who's asking the questions. In addition, Twitch chat isn't a good teacher either. You know, there's a lot of opinionated things that happen there, so you kind of have to like kind of pick and choose as a new player. But I do think that you have to just understand that there's just a myriad of things that can just go weird here when you're asking for help. I'll also say that there are a lot of players like myself who go out of their way to try to teach newer players, intermediate players. It doesn't really matter your skill level, like you can always learn something, right? So you kind of have to pick and choose, you know what I mean? Obviously I'm big up in myself here just a little bit, but it's because I'm really just good at just teaching people things. Like I don't really have a problem teaching you my stream chat or teaching you through a, you know, YouTube video or what have you, or even through text. It makes no difference, you know. I've gotten a lot of good positive feedback on that, right? But with that being said, I think it's just a little rough to call out the whole FGC, but you have to understand also that this happens in other communities as well. This isn't just an FGC thing where like, oh, high level players don't know how to tell you anything. Like I've been in other like FPS player streams trying to learn Apex or Valorant and like, you know, asking questions about certain things about the game. Like, I don't know, I just kind of just do it. And it's like, well, yeah, exactly. Much like this tweet. Well, that doesn't really help me. You know, I'd love to understand what was the reasoning behind your decision making or the reasoning by whatever you had going on screen. I'd love to know what was your reasoning for doing it, you know? But sometimes there are things that are just unexplainable, right? Like sometimes they just feel it in the moment and they thought this was a good idea. You know, sometimes there really is no good explanation. It's just you know, knee-jerk reacted or what have you, right? So, yeah. I do think it's not easy to teach people things, you know, because everyone learns differently, and like how things get explained to a newer player, they have to understand those concepts first and foremost, right? Which means, guess what? You have to remember, you can't just be upset at the people who are trying to teach you. You also have to take responsibility, right? You as a new player, whatever skill level you are, right? Whatever skill level you are as a player trying to ask for help, you have to make sure that you take your own personal responsibility to go do your own research as well to try to find answers. And if you can't find answers, obviously consult other people. You know, just do your best to reach out. You know, I think that's one thing that people have to understand. They have to learn how to do, right? Don't be afraid to reach out if you want to learn something. I know some people may seem unapproachable, but you lose nothing just by asking a question, right? If you get told something wild, then just move on. Don't take it personally, just move on, because if that's not going to help you, then you just got to find the answers some other way, right? And this is coming from someone who had to learn a lot of stuff in fighting games on their own. I did have a lot of people I could talk to, but not everyone played my characters, so I had to like figure out, well, how does this work, or how does that work? How can I make this work for me? You know what I mean? And it's not easy. to be honest. Learning any fighting game, learning any competitive game, there's always going to be a difficulty curve, and it can be difficult, you know, just trying to learn in general, right? But coming back to the main thing at hand, I think it's a mixed bag, but no matter how you slice the pie, I think it doesn't matter what community you go into. I think a lot of people just, in general, to be honest with you, just suck at teaching you anything. You know, as I said earlier, you gotta pick and choose and just know what you want to ask to, which let me lean into that a little bit here too. Asking like a general loaded question doesn't really help. Like, for example, how do I anti-air? You know, it's kind of like, to a lot of people, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like if your character has a Shoryuken or a move that hits like straight up in the air, it's kind of clear like what you should be doing. I think a better question to be asked is like, how do I anti-air if my opponent is crossing me up? You know, or how do I anti-air if my opponent is air dashing at me? How do I, you know what I'm saying? You have to position your questions a little bit better when you really want to get that information. So that's another thing I want to put out here too. Like when you are asking questions, make sure you try to be a bit more specific when you ask. Like literally just, how do I play this character is kind of like, well, dude, you have to learn your footsies. You have to learn how things work with your character. What are the special moves? Like when most people ask questions that are loaded like that, sometimes the player assumes that you already know kind of sort of how to play them to some degree. Or, you know, if you're just brand new, it's like it takes so much to try to explain you the character in full. Like I won't lie to you guys, like I can sit here and make a whole 2-hour video on how to play any character in any fighting game that I happen to play, right? You're not gonna want to sit there and do that because it's too long of a video. But it's like you want the information, but all the information is right here. But again, everyone learns differently, right? So it's just more about, again, positioning your questions and try to take in the information little by little. If you have to write stuff down and take notes, take notes. There's no shame in that. You know what I mean? Some people feel, in some cases, if you're writing notes or typing notes, it feels like, oh man, I shouldn't have to do that. You know, I shouldn't. No, it's okay. Like some people do that for their jobs. Some people do that for all kinds of different things. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking notes. Just if you have to do it, just do it. But yeah, keep doing your best as a new player or intermediate player, or you're just looking for questions that you want to ask. Make sure you try to be a bit more specific, and be careful asking things in Twitch chat, because Twitch chat doesn't always know what's best. You know, as someone who's a streamer, trust you me, I've seen a lot of things in Twitch chats when I've like kind of see people talking about tech, and it's like, it's kind of sus, you know. But I'm one of those people that like to test things out on my own, so even if I see it, I'll test it anyway, right? So that's another thing you can do as well. You know, if you ask questions in Twitch chat and they show you something, you know, obviously you're gonna see tech, you'll see some mix-ups and some things like that, but you want to make sure if you see it, maybe try to test it out, see if it works for you, see if it's something you want to do, you know. And I think one of the last things I'll throw out here is, you know, don't just ask for combos. Like, please understand that like if you're asking for, hey, what's a B&B for a character, that is like honestly one of the, I hate to say that there's no bad questions, but that's kind of sort of a bad one, mostly because you can just go on YouTube and you'll most likely find something there. But you know, again, just be more specific. Just, I think the biggest thing I want to give you guys here is just to, when you're asking for help, make sure you're specific and what you're looking for. I know you maybe as a new player, it might be hard to understand the terminology, it might be hard to understand exactly what you're trying to ask, but like, for example, if you say, you know, how do I use forward punch, or how do I use my sweep, or how do I use this normal, then someone can give you a little bit more of a detailed explanation on how to use said normal, or what have you. Or, you know, how do I deal with this safe jump, or what's a good safe jump, or something like that. You know, even ask about the lingo if you have to. It's better that you keep asking questions, even if it may seem annoying. It's better to just keep asking questions that kind of help build upon what you want to know. If you want to know something specific, then ask, you know, but be specific when you're asking. All right, you guys, let me just go ahead and close out. Let me know how you guys feel about this topic in the comments below. Does the FGC really suck at teaching new players how to play fighting games? Let me know. Talk to me. Let me go ahead and get up out of here, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.